Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining this channel where everyday objects turn into unbelievable treasures and where a simple coin in your pocket can secretly hold the power to change a life. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and talked about stories in the world of rare coins, the legendary 1991 cent coin that collectors dream about and experts debate endlessly. A penny that on the surface looks ordinary, copper-colored, small, and often ignored, yet under the right circumstances and with the right combination of minting errors, production mistakes, metal anomalies, die varieties, and historical coincidences, it has been imagined, discussed, and valued in extreme cases at figures reaching up to $15 million. And while that number represents the highest speculative and theoretical valuation tied to the rarest imaginable versions, the journey of how a 1991 cent could ever approach such a massive value is what makes this story so exciting, educational, and thrilling for collectors, treasure hunters, and anyone who loves the idea that hidden fortunes can exist in plain sight, because the year 1990 sits at a fascinating crossroads in United States minting history, a time when the Lincoln cent had already transitioned to copper-plated zinc in 1982, yet the minting process still relied on massive volumes, high-speed production, and human oversight combined with mechanical wear, creating the perfect environment for rare and dramatic errors to slip through unnoticed. And when we talk about a 1991 cent being worth $15 million, we are not talking about a normal circulated penny with scratches and wear, but about the absolute extreme end of rarity where multiple factors align, including wrong planchet errors, transitional metal compositions, dramatic die errors, and pristine preservation, each layer adding exponential value rather than incremental worth, because in numismatics, rarity multiplies value far more than condition alone, and the 1990 cent becomes especially interesting when we explore the possibility of transitional errors involving leftover copper alloy planchets, experimental metal testing, or foreign planchets accidentally fed into the presses, as the United States Mint has a long documented history of such mistakes, especially during periods of high output when billions of coins are struck annually, and a 1990 cent struck on a bronze planchet similar to pre-1982 cents would already be an extraordinary discovery. But when combined with a dramatic error like an off-metal strike, double denomination impression, or severe off-center strike with full date and mint mark visible, its desirability skyrockets, because collectors are not simply buying a coin, they are buying a mistake that was never meant to exist, a tangible accident frozen in metal. And one of the most talked about hypothetical scenarios involves a 1990 cent struck on a 95% copper planchet intended for an entirely different coin or leftover from earlier years, creating a coin with the weight, ring, and appearance of a classic copper cent while bearing a date that should never appear on that metal, and such a coin if authenticated would already reach 6 or 7 figures, but when paired with proof-like surfaces, deep mirrored fields, razor-sharp details, and absolutely no circulation marks, the valuation leaps again, because proof-quality errors are among the rarest items the mint can produce unintentionally, especially when they escape quality control, and then we enter the realm of die errors, where the story becomes even more dramatic, because a 1991 cent with a major double die obverse showing extreme doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the inscriptions would already command intense attention. But if that doubling is of the strongest class with separation lines visible to the naked eye, it becomes a once-in-a-generation find, and when combined with other errors like a rotated die, broad strike, or a dramatic cut where part of the die breaks away leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin, collectors begin to talk in terms of museum pieces rather than market items, and museums and elite collectors do not think in thousands or even hundreds of thousands, they think in legacy acquisitions, pieces that will anchor collections and be talked about for decades. And this is where the $15 million discussion comes into play, because at that level the coin is no longer valued simply by comparison to past auction results, but by its uniqueness, its story, and its role in the broader narrative of American minting history, and the 1990 cent also gains intrigue through the possibility of being struck at different mints, because Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each had distinct production environments, and a 1990 no mint mark cent from Philadelphia struck with a wrong metal and major die error would differ significantly from a 1990 D cent with the same issues, as Denver errors have historically shown different characteristics, and San Francisco proof cents introduce an entirely different category of rarity, because proof errors are extraordinarily rare due to the slower, more controlled striking process, and a 1990 South proof center struck on the wrong planchet or with a dramatic double die would instantly become one of the most important modern error coins known, especially if it escaped the mint in its original proof packaging and remained untouched for decades, because time itself adds mystique, and the longer an error remains undiscovered, the more powerful its story becomes, as collectors imagine how many hands it passed through unnoticed, how many jars, drawers, and collections it sat in quietly, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its importance. And the metal composition of the 1990 cent also opens doors to extreme valuation when we consider experimental alloys and test strikes, because the mint has a documented practice of testing alternative metals for coinage, and while most tests are tightly controlled, history has shown that some experimental pieces escape, and if a 1990 cent were struck on an experimental alloy not officially released, its value would transcend typical market logic, becoming a unique artifact of mint experimentation. And when authentication services confirm such anomalies using advanced metallurgical analysis, the coin's status shifts from collectible to historical evidence, something scholars reference and institutions seek, and condition plays a crucial role here, because a $15 million valuation assumes near perfection, a coin that looks as if it were struck yesterday, with blazing luster, no carbon spots, no handling marks, and strong eye appeal, because at the top end of the market collectors want perfection married to rarity, not compromise. And another fascinating possibility lies in the realm of double strikes and brockages, where a coin is struck more than once or with another coin stuck to the die, creating mirrored or incuse impressions, and a 1990 cent with a full brockage showing a reversed Lincoln portrait impressed onto the reverse would already be a showstopper, but if combined with an off-metal strike or transitional planchet, it becomes something that defies easy categorization. And such coins often spark bidding wars because they appeal to multiple collector niches. Simultaneously, error specialists, Lincoln cent collectors, and investors seeking unique assets, and the psychology of high-value coins cannot be ignored, because once a coin enters the realm of legend, its value feeds on itself, as stories circulate, articles are written, videos are made, and collectors become emotionally invested in the idea of owning a piece of numismatic mythology. And the 1991 cent fits perfectly into this narrative because it represents modern coinage, something people feel they should understand, yet it still holds secrets, and that contrast fuels fascination, because it challenges the assumption that only ancient or gold coins can be worth fortunes. And then there is the role of provenance, the documented history of a coin's ownership, which can elevate value dramatically, because a 1990 cent discovered in an original mint bag, estate collection, or hoard with clear documentation becomes more credible and more desirable, and if that coin is tied to a notable collector, mint employee, or historic event, its story deepens, adding layers that collectors are willing to pay for. And auction dynamics also play a massive role in pushing values into the millions, because when two or more determined bidders compete for a unique item, logic gives way to passion, and prices can soar beyond expectations, especially when the item is perceived as irreplaceable. And the idea of a $15,001,990 cent becomes more plausible when we imagine a perfect storm scenario, a unique wrong metal proof strike with a dramatic double die, pristine condition, full documentation, and widespread media attention, because at that point the coin transcends its face value and even its category, becoming a symbol of rarity itself. And while skeptics rightly point out that such valuations are speculative and represent the absolute extreme, the history of coin collecting is filled with examples where once impossible prices became reality, and the lesson for viewers is not to expect every 1990 penny to be worth millions, but to understand that knowledge is power, and that careful examination, proper weighing, magnification, and professional authentication are essential steps in identifying potential treasures. Next 2020 D1 cent coin, everyone, and a huge welcome to all the new viewers joining this channel where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary stories of hidden wealth, mystery, and once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern coin legends that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and everyday people alike. The incredible story of the 2020 D1 cent coin that under extremely rare circumstances has been discussed, speculated, and theoretically valued as high as $14 million, a number that sounds unbelievable for a coin most people still toss aside without a second thought. Yet when you truly understand how modern minting works, how mistakes happen even in high-tech environments, and how rarity combined with demand can explode value, this story becomes not only possible but deeply intriguing. Because the year 2020 itself holds a special place in history, marked by global disruption, changes in production schedules, staffing challenges, and unprecedented circumstances that affected nearly every industry including the United States Mint, and the Denver Mint marked by the D-Mint mark produced massive quantities of Lincoln cents that year under conditions that were far from normal, creating a perfect storm where unusual errors, overlooked mistakes, and unexpected anomalies could and in some cases did slip through quality control. And when we talk about a 2020 D1 cent being worth $14 million. We are not talking about a typical circulated penny, not even a mildly interesting error, but about the absolute extreme end of the numismatic spectrum where multiple rare factors align into a single coin that should never have existed, because in numismatics value does not rise in a straight line, it multiplies when rarity layers stack on top of one another. And the 2020 D cent becomes extraordinarily valuable in theory when we explore the possibilities of wrong planchet errors, transitional metal strikes, experimental alloys, dramatic die varieties, and pristine preservation all occurring together, starting with the most talked about possibility, a wrong planchet strike, where a 2020 D cent is struck not on the standard copper-plated zinc planchet but on an entirely different metal intended for another denomination or even another country. Because the mint handles multiple metals simultaneously, and history has proven again and again that planchets can and do end up in the wrong presses, and a 2020 D cent struck on a copper-nickel planchet, a silver-colored planchet, or even a leftover experimental alloy would immediately be one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered, because such an error would represent a failure at multiple checkpoints in the minting process, from planchet preparation to press loading to quality inspection. And rarity of that magnitude alone can push values into the seven-figure range, but when combined with other dramatic errors the valuation climbs exponentially. And then there is the fascinating discussion around transitional errors, because although the Lincoln cent officially transitioned to copper-plated zinc in 1982, the mint has a long history of testing alternative compositions, especially during periods when metal prices fluctuate or supply chains are disrupted, and 2020 was exactly such a year. And if even a tiny number of experimental planchets were struck and accidentally released bearing the 2020 D date, their value would be astronomical, not only because of their rarity but because they would represent physical evidence of mint experimentation, something collectors and institutions prize deeply. And imagine a 2020 D cent struck on a solid copper alloy planchet with the weight and density of a pre-1982 cent. Immediately it would defy expectations and ignite intense scrutiny, and once authenticated through metallurgical analysis confirming a non-standard composition, the coin would enter elite territory. And then we must consider die errors, because even with modern laser-engraved dies and computerized controls, die doubling, misalignment, and damage still occur, and a 2020 D cent with a dramatic double die obverse showing clear separation on the date, Lincoln's profile, and the inscriptions would already be a major discovery, but the value multiplies when that doubling is bold, easily visible without magnification, and classified as a true double die rather than machine doubling, because true double dies occur during the die creation process and affect every coin struck from that die. Yet many are caught and destroyed before release, making surviving examples incredibly rare. And then there are double die reverses, which while less dramatic visually can be just as rare, especially when they involve the Lincoln Memorial or shield design details depending on the reverse used. And when a double die is paired with a wrong planchet or transitional metal error, the coin becomes something collectors describe as a unicorn, a piece so rare that price guides cannot adequately value it. And then we enter the realm of strike errors, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, and rotated dies, each of which adds its own layer of rarity, and a 2020 D cent struck dramatically off-center yet retaining a full date and mint mark would already be desirable. But if struck on the wrong metal and showing doubling, it becomes extraordinary. Because collectors love errors they can see instantly, errors that tell a story at a glance, and visual impact plays a huge role in driving demand at the top end of the market. And then there are brockages and capped die errors, where coins stick to the dies and create incuse mirrored impressions or repeated distorted strikes, and a full brockage on a modern cent is rare enough. But on a wrong planchet or experimental alloy it becomes nearly unimaginable, and such coins often end up in museums or elite private collections because they are simply irreplaceable. And the Denver Mint adds another layer of intrigue because historically certain mints have produced more dramatic errors than others depending on equipment, staffing, and production pressure, and in 2020 production pressure was immense, because despite global disruptions, coinage demand surged as people hoarded cash and circulation patterns changed, forcing the mint to run presses hard and fast, increasing the likelihood of mistakes slipping through. And condition is absolutely critical when discussing a $14 million valuation, because at that level the coin must be nearly perfect, showing full original luster, sharp strikes, no contact marks, no corrosion, and exceptional eye appeal, because top-tier collectors and institutions demand perfection alongside rarity. And a pristine uncirculated or proof-like example carries far more weight than a worn circulated piece. And speaking of proof-like surfaces, one of the most exciting hypothetical scenarios involves a 2020 D cent with proof-like or even full-proof characteristics struck at the Denver Mint, which primarily produces business strikes, because proof quality errors from non-proof mints are exceedingly rare, and such a coin would suggest extraordinary circumstances within the minting process, instantly elevating its status. And then there is the possibility of mule errors, where obverse and reverse dies from different coins are mistakenly paired, and while mules are among the rarest and most valuable errors in all of numismatics, a 2020 cent mule pairing a cent obverse with a wrong reverse design would be world famous overnight, because such an error requires a chain of failures that almost never occur in modern minting, and the value of a unique mule can easily reach into the multi-million-dollar range on its own, and when combined with other anomalies, the $14 million discussion becomes more understandable, and provenance plays a massive role here as well, because a coin with documented discovery history, original packaging, or connection to a notable collection carries far more credibility and allure, and if a 2020 cent of extreme rarity were discovered in an unopened mint bag, a sealed roll, or an estate tied to a mint employee or long-time collector, its story would add depth and desirability. And collectors are storytellers at heart, they pay not only for metal and rarity but for narrative, and a coin born in a year of global upheaval, carrying multiple minting mistakes, becomes a symbol of that time, and auction dynamics cannot be ignored, because prices are not set in isolation, they are discovered through competition, and when two or more determined buyers compete for a unique item, especially one with media attention and legend status, logic often gives way to emotion, and prices can soar far beyond expectations, and a $14 million sale becomes possible not because the coin contains that much metal value, but because it represents something that cannot be replicated, and psychology drives the highest end of the market, and the idea that a modern penny could be worth millions captures public imagination, drawing new collectors into the hobby and increasing demand for standout pieces, which in turn pushes values higher. And even if the absolute $14 million valuation represents a theoretical maximum rather than a confirmed sale, it serves an important purpose. It highlights just how powerful rarity, error complexity, and condition can be, and it encourages people to look more closely at their change, to learn, to weigh coins, to use magnets, to examine details under magnification, and to seek professional authentication when something seems unusual, because even lesser 2020 cent errors can be worth hundreds. Next 2013 1 cent coin, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the passionate collectors, curious viewers, and first-time visitors who love uncovering hidden value in everyday objects. This channel is all about turning ordinary moments into extraordinary discoveries, and today we are exploring one of the most fascinating modern coin legends ever discussed. The incredible idea that a simple 2013 1 cent coin, something millions of people have handled without a second thought, could under extraordinarily rare circumstances be worth as much as $13 million, a figure that sounds impossible until you begin to understand how modern coin production works, how mistakes still happen even in highly automated systems, and how rarity, condition, demand, and historical context can combine to create astronomical value. Because the story of the 2013 1 cent is not about a normal penny, not about pocket change worn down by circulation, but about the most extreme edge of numismatics, where errors overlap, mistakes compound, and a coin becomes something that was never meant to exist, and the year 2013 itself sits in a unique place in modern mint history, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents using high-speed presses, copper-plated zinc planchets, and digital die technology, yet still relying on human oversight, mechanical tolerance, and logistical coordination across multiple facilities, which means that despite technological advancement, the possibility for rare and dramatic errors remained very real, and when we talk about a 2013 1 cent reaching a theoretical value of $13 million, we are talking about a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies, beginning with one of the most powerful drivers of value, the wrong planchet error. Because if a 2013 cent were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime, a foreign coin, or even an experimental alloy being tested by the mint, that coin would instantly become one of the rarest modern errors known, since the mint handles multiple metals and denominations simultaneously, and history has proven that wrong planchets do sometimes find their way into presses despite strict controls, and a 2013 cent struck on a silver-colored planchet, a copper-nickel alloy, or a planchet with a composition not officially released would immediately defy expectations, prompting intense scrutiny and excitement across the collecting community, and once authenticated through weight, diameter, magnetic response, and advanced metallurgical analysis, such a coin would move beyond curiosity into the realm of legendary discovery, and the value multiplies further when we consider transitional or experimental metal errors, because although the Lincoln cent officially changed composition decades earlier, the mint continues to experiment with metals due to fluctuating prices, environmental concerns, and long-term planning, and if a small batch of Experimental planchets were accidentally struck with 2013 dies and released into circulation or collector channels. Those coins would represent physical proof of mint experimentation, something that collectors, researchers, and institutions prize above almost anything else. And imagine the impact of a 2013 cent struck on a solid copper alloy similar to pre-1982 cents. Instantly heavier, different in sound, and visually distinct under magnification, such a coin would already be a multi-million dollar item before any other errors are considered. And then we enter the world of die varieties, where even modern technology cannot eliminate mistakes, because double dies still occur when dies receive multiple misaligned impressions during creation. And a 2013 1 cent with a dramatic double die obverse showing strong, clear doubling on the date, Lincoln's eye, nose, beard, and inscriptions would already command enormous attention, but when that doubling is bold enough to be seen without magnification and confirmed as a true double die rather than mechanical doubling, the rarity increases exponentially, because most double dies are detected early and destroyed, leaving only a tiny number to escape into circulation. And double die reverses also play a role, especially when they involve shield details or lettering that show strong separation, and while less visually obvious to casual observers, advanced collectors recognize their importance. And when a double die is paired with a wrong planchet or experimental alloy, the coin transcends normal classification, becoming something collectors describe as unique or nearly unique. And then there are strike errors, which add another layer of intrigue, because off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, and misaligned dies still occur even in modern presses. And a 2013 cent struck significantly off-center while retaining the full date and mint mark is already desirable, but if that off-center strike occurs on a wrong metal planchet with double die characteristics, the coin becomes extraordinary, because collectors value errors that tell a story visually, errors that immediately show something went wrong in the minting process. And then we have brockage and capped die errors, where coins stick to the dies and create incuse mirrored impressions or repeated distorted strikes. And a full brockage on a modern cent is rare enough, but on a 2013 cent struck on a wrong planchet or experimental alloy it becomes almost unimaginable, creating a piece that would likely end up in a museum or the most elite private collections, because such errors are irreplaceable. And then there is the possibility of mule errors, one of the rarest categories in all of numismatics, where mismatched obverse and reverse dies from different denominations are accidentally paired. And while modern mint controls make mules extremely unlikely, history has shown they can still occur. And a 2013 cent mule pairing a cent obverse with an incorrect reverse design would be world famous overnight, instantly placing that coin into the highest tier of collectible errors. And condition is absolutely critical when discussing a $13 million valuation, because at that level the coin must be in near perfect state, showing full original luster, sharp strikes, clean surfaces, no corrosion, no contact marks, and exceptional eye appeal, because elite collectors and institutions demand perfection alongside rarity. And a pristine uncirculated or proof-like example carries far more weight than any circulated piece. And proof-like qualities introduce another fascinating possibility, because if a 2013 cent struck for circulation somehow displays proof-like or even full-proof characteristics, deep mirrored fields, sharp cameo contrast, and exceptional detail, it suggests extraordinary circumstances within the minting process. And such anomalies are incredibly rare, especially outside of proof mints. And then there is the role of mint location, because Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each have distinct production environments, and a rare error from one mint may be more or less common than from another. And certain mints have historically produced more dramatic errors due to equipment differences and production pressure. And while billions of 2013 cents were produced, only a microscopic fraction would ever exhibit the extreme combination of errors required to approach the $13 million level. And provenance becomes essential at this point, because a coin with documented discovery history, original packaging, or connection to a known collection carries far greater credibility and desirability. And if a 2013 cent of extreme rarity were discovered in an unopened roll, a sealed mint bag, or an estate collection with clear documentation, its story would add depth and legitimacy. And collectors are deeply influenced by narrative, because they are not just buying metal, they are buying a story frozen in time. And auction dynamics also play a huge role in driving values into the millions, because when two or more determined bidders compete for a unique item, especially one with media attention and legendary status, prices can soar beyond traditional valuation models, driven by emotion, prestige, and the desire to own something no one else can have. And a $13 million price tag becomes possible not because of intrinsic metal value but because of perceived irreplaceability. And the idea that a modern penny could be worth millions captures the public imagination, drawing new collectors into the hobby and increasing demand for standout pieces, which in turn reinforces high valuations, and even if the $13 million figure represents a theoretical maximum rather than a confirmed sale, it serves as a powerful reminder of how rarity, error complexity, condition, and story can combine to create extraordinary value, and the real takeaway for viewers is not that every 2013 penny is worth a fortune, but that knowledge, curiosity, and careful examination matter, because even lesser 2013 cent errors can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and the thrill lies in the hunt, the possibility that among billions of coins, a few escape the system carrying stories and value far beyond their size. And the legend of the 13 million 2013 1 cent continues to inspire collectors around the world, reminding us that even in an age of advanced technology, mistakes still happen, history still leaves its mark on metal, and sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest stories. Next 2016 1 cent coin, and a very warm welcome to all the loyal subscribers and new viewers who have just discovered this channel where everyday coins turn into extraordinary stories of mystery, rarity, and life-changing value. Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about modern penny legends, the incredible idea that a simple 2016 1 cent coin, something most people would never look at twice, could under extremely rare and specific circumstances be worth as much as $12 million, a number that feels unbelievable until you truly understand how modern minting works, how errors still happen despite advanced technology, and how the world of numismatics values rarity, story, and uniqueness far more than face value or metal content, because this is not about an ordinary penny pulled from circulation with scratches and wear. This is about the most extreme edge of possibility where multiple minting mistakes, production anomalies, and preservation factors combine to create a coin that should never have existed, and the year 2016 itself is a fascinating point in modern United States mint history, a time when the Lincoln cent was being produced in massive quantities at high speed, particularly at the Denver Mint marked by the D Mint mark, using copper-plated zinc planchets, laser-engraved dies, and automated quality control systems, yet still relying on human oversight, mechanical tolerance, and logistical coordination across facilities, which means that even in an age of automation, rare and dramatic errors can and do escape into the wild, and when we talk about a 2016 1 cent reaching a theoretical valuation of $12 million, we are talking about an almost unimaginable convergence of numismatic factors, starting with one of the most powerful drivers of value in coin collecting, the wrong planchet error. Because if a 2016 cent were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime, a foreign coin, or even an experimental alloy being tested by the mint, it would instantly become one of the rarest modern coins ever known, as the mint handles multiple metals and denominations simultaneously, and history has repeatedly shown that planchets can accidentally enter the wrong presses despite strict controls, and a 2016 cent struck on a copper-nickel planchet, a silver-colored planchet, or any non-standard metal would immediately stand out by weight, color, sound, and magnetic response, and once authenticated by professional grading services using advanced metallurgical analysis, such a coin would move beyond curiosity into legendary status, and the value increases exponentially when we consider transitional or experimental metal errors, because although the Lincoln cent officially transitioned to copper-plated zinc decades earlier, the mint continues to research and test alternative compositions due to metal price volatility, environmental concerns, and long-term planning, and if even a tiny number of experimental planchets were accidentally struck with 2016 dies and released, those coins would represent physical evidence of mint experimentation, something that collectors and institutions value enormously. And imagine the discovery of a 2016 cent struck on a solid copper alloy similar to pre-1982 cents, heavier than normal, with different acoustic properties and visual characteristics under magnification. Such a coin would immediately ignite intense excitement across the numismatic community, and once confirmed, it would already be valued in the multi-million-dollar range before any other errors are considered, and then we move into the realm of die varieties, where even modern die production methods cannot eliminate mistakes entirely, because double dies still occur when dies receive multiple misaligned impressions during their creation, and a 2016 1 cent with a strong double die obverse showing clear separation on the date, Lincoln's eye, nose, beard, and inscriptions would already be an extraordinary discovery. But when that doubling is bold enough to be visible without magnification and confirmed as a true double die rather than mechanical doubling, the rarity increases dramatically, because most double dies are detected early and destroyed, leaving only a handful to escape, and double die reverses also add value, especially when they involve strong separation in lettering or shield details, and while less obvious to casual Observers, advanced collectors recognize their importance, and when a double die is paired with a wrong planchet or experimental alloy, the coin becomes something that defies traditional pricing models. And then there are striking errors, which add another layer of intrigue, because off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, misaligned dies, and strike-through errors still occur even on modern high-speed presses. And a 2016 descent struck significantly off-center while retaining the full date and mint mark is already desirable, but if that off-center strike occurs on a wrong metal planchet and shows double die characteristics, the coin becomes extraordinary, because collectors love errors that are immediately visible and tell a clear story of something going wrong during production. And then we have brockage and capped die errors, where a coin sticks to the die and impresses its design ink use onto the next coin or repeatedly strikes, creating distorted shapes. And a full brockage on a modern cent is rare on its own, but on a 2016 D cent struck on a wrong planchet or experimental metal it becomes almost unimaginable, creating a piece that would likely never be sold publicly but instead displayed in a museum or held in an elite private collection. And one of the most exciting and rare possibilities in all of numismatics is the mule error, where mismatched obverse and reverse dies from different denominations are accidentally paired. And while modern mint controls make mules extremely rare, history proves they can still happen. And a 2016 D cent mule combining a cent obverse with an incorrect reverse design would instantly become world famous, placing that coin among the most important modern era coins ever discovered. And condition is absolutely critical when discussing a $12 million valuation, because at that level the coin must be nearly perfect, showing full original mint luster, sharp strikes, clean surfaces, no corrosion, no contact marks, and exceptional eye appeal, because elite collectors and institutions demand perfection alongside rarity, and a pristine uncirculated or proof-like example carries far more weight than any circulated piece. And proof-like qualities introduce another fascinating possibility, because if a 2016 D cent struck for circulation somehow displays deep mirrored fields, sharp cameo contrast, and extraordinary detail, it suggests highly unusual circumstances during striking, and such anomalies are incredibly rare outside of proof mints. And the Denver Mint adds another layer of interest because historically different mints have produced different patterns of errors depending on equipment, staffing, and production pressure, and in years of high output even small deviations can lead to rare mistakes slipping through. And provenance becomes essential at this level, because a coin with documented discovery history, original packaging, or a connection to a known collection or estate carries far greater credibility and desirability. And collectors are deeply influenced by narrative, because they are not just buying metal, they are buying a story frozen in time. And auction dynamics also play a powerful role in driving values into the millions, because when two or more determined bidders compete for a unique item, especially one surrounded by media attention and legend, prices can soar beyond traditional valuation logic, driven by emotion, prestige, and the desire to own something irreplaceable. And the idea that a modern penny could be worth $12 million captures the public imagination, drawing new collectors into the hobby and increasing demand for extraordinary pieces, which in turn reinforces high valuations. And even if the $12 million figure represents a theoretical maximum rather than a confirmed sale, it serves as a powerful illustration of how rarity, error, complexity, condition, and story can combine to create astonishing value. And the real lesson for viewers is not that every 2016 penny is worth a fortune, but that knowledge, curiosity, and careful examination matter, because even lesser 2016 D cent errors can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. And the thrill lies in the hunt, the possibility that among billions of coins, a few escape the system carrying stories and value far beyond their size. And the legend of the $12 million 2016 D1 cent continues to inspire collectors around the world, reminding us that even in an age of advanced technology, mistakes still happen, history still leaves its mark on metal, and sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest stories. Last 1996 1 cent coin, everyone, and a huge welcome to all the collectors, treasure hunters, and curious viewers joining this channel today, where ordinary coins transform into extraordinary stories of rarity, value, and numismatic fascination. Today we are diving deep into one of the most intriguing and talked about modern coin legends, the 1996 1 cent coin. A coin that millions of people have handled without ever realizing its potential, yet under extremely rare and specific circumstances. This coin has been discussed and theoretically valued at up to $11 million, a figure that may seem astonishing for a coin that usually circulates as ordinary pocket change, but when we understand the world of minting, the errors that can occur, and the principles of collector-driven valuation, this number becomes less implausible and infinitely more exciting. Because the 1996 cent represents a perfect storm of modern minting history, mechanical processes, human oversight, and sheer chance, combining to create some of the rarest and most valuable coins in contemporary numismatics. And to understand why a 1996 1 cent could be worth $11 million, we have to explore every layer of possibility, starting with the foundation of value, the planchet, because if a 1996 cent was struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a piece of metal intended for a different coin or even a foreign denomination, it would instantly become an extreme rarity, and the United States Mint has a long history of accidental planchet errors, despite stringent quality controls, because billions of coins are produced annually, and even the most automated processes cannot completely eliminate human or mechanical mistakes. And imagine a 1996 cent struck on a planchet that was composed of the wrong alloy, such as a copper-nickel composition instead of the standard copper-plated zinc, or perhaps an experimental metal blend that was never meant for circulation. Such a coin would immediately stand out to collectors due to its weight, color, magnetic properties, and sound, and once authenticated by professional grading and metallurgical analysis, it would become an object of legendary status, a coin whose story alone could command the attention of the entire numismatic world. And the value of such a coin multiplies dramatically when combined with other anomalies, particularly die errors, because even in modern mints with laser-engraved dies and automated inspection, doubled dies, misalignments, and damage can occur, and a 1996 1 cent with a dramatic double die obverse showing clear and strong doubling on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and inscriptions would already be rare, but when that doubling is bold enough to be seen without magnification, classified as a true double die rather than machine doubling, and verified by numismatic experts, the rarity escalates exponentially, because most double dies are detected early and destroyed, leaving only a handful in the wild. And similarly, double die reverses, especially those that show dramatic separation on the Lincoln Memorial or shield details, add additional layers of value, and when these die errors are combined with wrong planchet or metal anomalies, the coin becomes something unique, essentially defying conventional categorization and entering the realm of legendary numismatic artifacts. And then we have strike errors, another essential factor in understanding extreme valuations, because off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, and strike-throughs all occur even in highly controlled minting environments, and a 1996 cent struck significantly off-center yet retaining the full date and mint mark is highly collectible. But if this off-center strike is paired with wrong metal, experimental alloy, and double die characteristics, the coin moves into the top tier of rarity, becoming a once-in-a-generation find, and brockage and capped die errors further complicate the picture, because when a coin sticks to the die and produces an incuse mirrored impression or a repeated distorted strike, it creates a design that is visually dramatic and impossible to replicate, and a full brockage or capped die error on a 1996 1 cent struck on wrong metal or experimental planchet would almost certainly never appear in a typical collection, likely ending up in a museum or a high-profile private collection, because such coins are irreplaceable. And mules, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of errors, also factor into the potential for an $11 million valuation, because a mule occurs when obverse and reverse dies intended for different denominations are mistakenly paired, and although modern mint processes make such errors extremely rare, history has proven that they can and do occur, and a 1996 cent mule, combining an obverse from the cent with an incorrect reverse design, would instantly gain worldwide fame, placing it among the most important modern era coins ever discovered. And condition is absolutely critical when assessing coins at this level of value, because a coin worth millions must be nearly perfect, displaying full original mint luster, razor-sharp strikes, pristine surfaces, no corrosion, no contact marks, and exceptional eye appeal, because elite collectors and institutions demand perfection in addition to rarity. And a pristine uncirculated or proof-like 1996 cent carries far more weight than even the most extreme circulated error, and proof-like qualities introduce yet another dimension, because if a 1996 cent struck for circulation somehow exhibits deep mirrored fields, sharp cameo contrast, and extraordinary detail, it suggests highly unusual conditions during striking, and such anomalies are incredibly rare, especially outside of proof mint facilities, adding further layers to both the story and the value. And the mint location itself adds yet another layer of intrigue, because Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each have distinct production environments, and certain mints have historically produced more dramatic errors due to equipment, staffing, and production pressure. And in 1996, the Denver Mint, marked by the D mint mark, known for high output and high efficiency, may have been especially prone to the rare combination of circumstances required for a coin to escape with multiple overlapping errors, and provenance becomes critical at this extreme level, because a coin with documented history of discovery, original packaging, or connection to a notable collection or estate increases credibility and desirability immensely, because collectors do not just buy metal, they buy stories, and the narrative of a coin discovered in an unopened mint roll, a sealed bag, or an estate with clear documentation adds layers of appeal that are difficult to quantify but dramatically increase market value, and auction dynamics also play a significant role in driving values into the millions, because when two or more determined collectors or investors compete for a one-of-a-kind piece, particularly one that has gained media attention or legendary status, prices can exceed expectations, driven by prestige, emotion, and the desire to own something irreplaceable, and the concept of a 1996 1 cent being worth $11 million captures the imagination, drawing new collectors into the hobby, encouraging careful examination of coins, magnification, weighing, testing with magnets, and professional authentication, because even lesser 1996 cent errors can command hundreds or thousands of dollars, and the thrill lies not only in potential financial reward but in the intellectual satisfaction of recognizing and understanding an anomaly, and the legend of the $11,001,996 1 cent continues to fascinate collectors, investors, and casual enthusiasts alike, reminding us that even in an age of advanced technology and automated production, mistakes still happen. Human and mechanical errors leave their mark, and the smallest coins can carry the biggest stories, because in numismatics, rarity, condition, error, complexity, and story combine in unpredictable ways to create objects of immense fascination, intrigue, and value. And the 1996 1 cent serves as a powerful example that even a coin produced in the millions can occasionally escape into history as a singular treasure, a tangible testament to the delicate interplay of chance, human oversight, mechanical process, and collector passion. And as viewers examine their own collections, search through rolls, and inspect pocket change, the story of the 1996 1 cent encourages curiosity, careful observation, and the understanding that what appears ordinary on the surface may conceal extraordinary value and historical significance. And this coin's story is a reminder that in the world of coins, the intersection of rarity, error, perfection, provenance, and narrative can transform a simple copper disc into a legend worth millions of dollars, captivating imaginations and inspiring collectors around the globe to look just a little closer at the small, everyday objects that may hide secrets and fortunes beyond their face value. And this is exactly why the 1996 1 cent continues to be a subject of fascination, discussion, and deep admiration within the numismatic community, because it embodies the thrill, mystery, and extraordinary potential that draws so many people to the hobby, proving once again that sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest stories and the most unbelievable value imaginable.